It is Miata time. Obviously, we got the turtle sitting here. One thing that's obviously a little bit big and noticeable is we have the front bumpers back. So basically, this is the bumper that got in the accident, and we were afraid that this wasn't repairable just because of there's multiple layers of fiberglass that were split, and we're just afraid if it gets repaired, it wouldn't be hard for it to start splintering back off. So what ended up happening is this is the OG bumper that was on my car since 2011 that I had cut for the fender flares before. That's why I didn't run it with the LS yet. And then when I decided to make a little experiment, I had a big hole here. So friend Derek, they have PMAR fiberglass. They build a lot of cool race cars and full bodies. He took on this project for me. He filled in the hole. I mean, as you can see, it's solid. He actually got rid of the side markers for me. I'm excited. And then they ended up having to take off. We basically cut the sides of this bumper on each side, and he added the pieces back onto the side to measure up exactly how it should on both sides. So unfortunately, we had to take the two bumpers and turn it into one, but everything is good. So I at least have the bumper now to do the mock-up stuff, and then we got to get the front end stuff to Randy ASAP to get painted. I just have to have the fab work done first. So anyway, I just got off work about 3:30 in the morning, and I need to get work done to the car. So I finally set a reminder, or not a reminder, but a days remaining calendar. There's 51 days until TX2K, and that is when I need to be rolling in and starting for qualifying. As you see, the car's still not together. You know, I still have the drive shaft out of it. I still have to do some transmission hoses and such. And obviously the front end, there is no turbo kit. I got in touch with the fabricator. Hopefully we'll have an answer on when I can get the car to him very, very, very soon. In the meantime, there's a lot of stuff I have to button up on my own. So I'm gonna dive in tonight. I wanna get the drive shaft in now, and then see what else can be done before I get too tired and have to go to sleep. But gotta get working on it. So let's get to work. All right, so like 20 minutes went by and I just got a handful of stuff done, but it's all underneath the car and it's really a pain in the ass to film and show. So I'm gonna show right now what I did. Like I said, drive shaft bolted in. It's got the straps on. So I tied up, got the shifter bracket on. I guess this pan, this new to me pan, I had to trim my shifter cable bracket right there. I trimmed that for that little plug. The shifter is connected. The ground for the trans brake is on. And I think I actually broke it. That's not good. Okay, I'll have to fix that. Trinity temp sensor's plugged in. Got the little sub harness plugged in for the trans brake. And then what I'm doing right now is I just pulled off the dump valve from up top. I'm gonna make a couple of hoses and let's go from there. Alrighty, so here on the bench, this is the dump valve. It's basically just a solenoid. You have a line coming in, line going out. It doesn't even matter which way they flow, but that's how it works. So you got a line coming from the transmission, and then this will be dumping out towards the pan. So what I'm going to do is basically take this section of hose that I have. I'm just going to cut it in half. I'm going to put one fitting on each end. That way I have two, like the beginning of two hoses to start with. And also on this bracket, I only use the top bolt to bolt it on. So I'm thinking about just cutting the back section off because it doesn't matter to me. So that's the plan right now. Although cutting it's going to take a little while. So my preferred method whenever I make hose ends is I tape the part that I want to cut, and I use my handy dandy cutoff wheel. That way now I have a clean edge, and then when you go to pull the tape off, 99 times out of 10, you usually don't have any frays. Because once you have any frays, then it's pretty much a pain in the butt to assemble your fitting. So, let's see if I did a good job today. Perfect. So yeah, if you look around the edges of the hose, there's no fraying, no nothing like that. So what you do now is you take off your fitting. And you put your fitting on the hose. It should slide in. And bottomed out. And that's good to go. If you have any frays or whatnot, it becomes a nightmare to try to assemble a hose. Alright, so after a little while, I finally got the thing trimmed off. I got the ear cut off. And this will make it 10 times easier for me to actually get in here and tighten the fitting with the wrench. So, should be good to go. I got my 2 hoses cut right here. Off to the car. So, have you ever like just laid there under your car, you have a master plan in effect, and then all of a sudden none of it works? Because that totally just happened to me. I don't know if that's directly in your way. So, let's turn this on. So, my dump valve, it cleared the training tunnel, no problem. But the second I actually put the fitting on top of the fitting on the case, it didn't clear. So as you can see, that fitting on top of the case, that's what I'm referring to. So I just had a brilliant idea, and I can actually put the dump valve on the training mount. So this actually works out really well. So the fitting on top right here will end up going to the hose that goes to that fitting right there. So that's perfect. That's a short hose. The fitting coming off the case, I can loop around and run the fitting right here where my finger's at. It can run right there. And it actually works out pretty well. It's pretty compact, and I mean, I can rotate the head of this, that way the electrical connector's out of the way, but it's it's still higher up than the tranny. So this works out really well. So now I gotta mark some tape, mark my fittings, go do some more cutting, and then dump valve install is done. All right, so I didn't realize there were so many drops of tranny fluid on the ground. So now my hair is an absolute mess of ATF. Yay. And unfortunately, the ATF that's in my hair comes from the dyno that they put the transmission on before I get it. So you know it's used oil, and it stinks. But the dumps are plumbed, and I am actually really happy with how they come out. So take a look. So the dump is mounted right here on the cross member. Mounted on my cross member bolt. One bolt. You have the fitting that comes out of the case. It loops around the transmission to the fitting right here. It goes out the fitting on the top, and the fitting on the top dumps straight into the pan right there. So I'm sure I've explained this in the past, but for those that are new, basically what a transmission dump valve does is it takes the pressure out of the torque converter and it just puts it right back in the oil pan. What that means is a torque converter has to be tight enough for it to hold the horsepower. However, on an auto car like mine and a very big turbo, not very big, but big turbo, you need the converter to be loose to be able to spool it up to get on boost. So basically what a dump valve does is it takes the tighter converter and makes it looser, which makes it easier to spool up to get on the two-step. So I actually had one dump valve before, and now this will actually be my second dump valve. So when the transmission and converter were at FTI about a month ago, they actually made the torque converter tighter, because we noticed on my pass, my 887 pass, it was slipping around 14%. Well, we want to get those slip numbers to like 6. So that tells you right there, I still had more power that I just wasn't being able to transfer to the wheels. So tightening the converter, we will lessen the slip, but adding that second dump valve, I'll be able to spool it faster. So win-win. With the Fuel Tech, I have plenty of outputs to where I'm going to take this dump valve now and I can actually stage it to where I control when it opens and closes. It's not just going to be while the trans brake is enabled. So on this particular dump valve, it's actually plumbed before the torque converter. So by the time I'm on boost and I'm ready to launch, I need to have the fluid back in the torque converter. So I will be shutting off that dump when I reach about 8 pounds of boost. Because after 8 pounds of boost, it's just going to start climbing in boost, and the engine will be able to overcome the tighter torque converter. So a lot to understand for like the new guys, but I'm pretty pooped at this point. I'm gonna call it a night. You know, I'm gonna try to get in a few hours each night. You know, right now it's 5:30 in the morning, so 2 hours I would say I had a success. Got the drive shaft in, I got the dump valves plumbed, and I got the stuff underneath the car kind of buttoned up. As I mentioned, I did accidentally break that ring terminal for the ground for the dump or the trans brake, so I have to fix that, but that's just a crimp. I'm not worried about that. So anyway, more work this week. I think tomorrow's project, I'm gonna start trying to tackle stuff in the front of the car. Like I said, I'm trying to get to the fabricator as soon as possible to start figuring out where everything goes. I might have to go to the metal surplus. So as you can see here, this is the bar goes across. I cut the old one off. So this was the old one that had the turbo mount on it. You can see that's where the turbo bolted before. Well, since I'm not gonna mount the turbo there anymore, I got a fresh piece of pipe. But what I kind of want to do is see about getting a piece that I can slide it in inside these to basically strengthen it instead of just butt welding it. And then we'll go from there. But that'll be it for me tonight. I'm gonna try to knock out, like I said, a couple hours each night in the garage and get some work done. I got 51 days. TX2K is coming up. Catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.